Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to see you and see you again, to those of you who have joined us at previous sessions of this week's Connect Resound Festival of Online Music Learning. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar on working with ensembles and preparing for music performances online, which is part of the Connect Resound Learning Festival. My name's Emily Penn. I'm a white female with dark hair, wearing a black top. And I'm delighted to be here this afternoon, and I'm really excited to welcome all of our brilliant speakers. We've got Sarah Sharman from the Leicester-Shire Schools Music Service, Tori Longdon from the Stay at Home Choir, Katie Lodge from the National Youth Choirs of Great Britain, and from across the pond we've got Sinead Hayes from Athenry Music School Sinfonietta, and Catherine McMornis, the director of Athenry Music School. And I've sort of read and seen so much of the work of all of the organisations that we've got here this afternoon. And I'm just really excited to delve into what they've been doing over the past year and find out all the things that they've learned, all of the tools and tricks they've picked up, all of the wonderful experiences they've given the young people they work with, and also to find out what their next plans are in terms of work with ensembles and delivering online music performances. So we're going to start shortly. We're going to have a presentation from each of our organisations, and then at the end we'll have a Q&A session. So if questions occur to you as we go along, as Grace said, please do pop them in the Q&A and let us know what we'd like us to ask them, and we'll do that all in a block at the very end. Before we start, I'll just go over a little bit of housekeeping. If you've got any tech problems, please pop them in the chat and we'll do what we can to help you. If you want to introduce yourself or chat to the other delegates or the panelists, you can do that there as well. If you do want a question answered, if you put it in the Q&A, it'll make sure that we and the panelists can see it. This event is being live captioned and it is being recorded, and it will be available after the session on the 9Maz YouTube channel. So if we do go a little bit too fast, don't worry, there'll be a chance to sort of go and replay it afterwards. So we're going to have about an hour of presentations from our fabulous set of panelists, and then half an hour, maybe a bit less, depending on how much chat we have, of Q&As. So I'm going to start by introducing Sarah Sharman, who's from the Leicester-Shire Schools Music Service. Leicestershire have always been at the forefront of online and digital stuff as a music service and a music hub, and I'm really excited to hear about the work they've been doing with ensembles and festivals this year. So over to you, Sarah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me. As Emily said, I've been working with the Leicester-Shire Schools Music Service since June last year, and we've put on a whole variety of online events over the course of the past 12 months. So I'm going to take you on a slightly whirlwind tour of them and show you a few of the things that we've been doing. So here's a sort of summary of some of the things that we've had going on in the past 12 months. We've had 3 virtual singing projects. Last July, we had a youth festival that took place. We then had a winter festival in December. We've run workshops for our ensembles throughout the course of the year, and we launched a lockdown learning programme in January as well. So I'm going to just talk through some of those and how we went about organising them. So Let's Make Music Youth Festival came about last June, really from, like everybody, the wanting to celebrate young people making music, but the fact that there were no end of term concerts, there were no sharing assemblies for our young musicians, no performance opportunities. So we wanted to give young people a platform to be able to share their music making. So we worked with our youth ambassador team and talked about the concept of having an online festival, and we created a brand which is Let's Make Music, and we've continued to use that brand then throughout the rest of our online events. And we had a graphic designer at the county council who we're affiliated with design this logo with us. We also talked about the content of the festival and what we wanted it to include, and we wanted it to be as inclusive as possible. So I'm just going to play you here a clip from the opening of our festival so you can get a sense of what it looked like.
Hello and welcome to Let's Make Music, a celebration of youth music making in Leicester and Leicestershire.
We hope you enjoyed the wide variety of performances we have for you today, which showcases the huge talent and scope of young people making music in Leicester.
No matter what style of music you enjoy, today you will find something in this festival for you. From Bach to Billie Eilish, from steel pans to pots and pans. We've got something for everyone to enjoy across these 5 festival stages. Here's what you can look forward to over the next week.
Okay, so you just saw the LSMS Youth Ambassadors presenting part of the opening segment of the festival there. As part of all of this organisation, they also took part in a Zoom voice training session with a local radio presenter, and also we did a session with them about camera placement and how to set yourself up to film to do the presenting slots. So that was really great fun. So we came up. Right, here we go. Okay, so yeah, we decided that if you're at a real life festival, you would visit different stages to view different types of music. So we came up with 5 performance stages, all with less in the title. So we had a performance stage for our central ensembles, and they all worked on recording videos at home, matrix style videos that we then edited together. We had a schools performance stage for both primary and secondary schools. We had a stage for solo artists where we just threw open an invitation to any young people in the city and county that might want to send us a video of them performing. We had singer-songwriters, we had beginner violinists, we had amazing trombonists, so we had a really good selection of people enter that. We then had an instrument showcase stage, which the young people decided that families watching might not necessarily know about all the musical opportunities available. So that's what that was. And then we had 3 headline acts, which were local musicians, professional musicians, aimed to inspire our young people and give us a real kind of festival buzz. We knitted this all together with interludes from the Soundtrack to Leicestershire composition competition, which we had been running for a couple of months, and the Million Dreams Choir project, which I'll tell you about in a moment. So I know we've probably all seen many of these types of videos in the past year, but I was just going to play you a little Leicester-Shire Schools Symphony Orchestra matrix video so you can see what our students were doing at home that we were then editing together. Okay, so that's the LSSO playing Ode to Joy. So the Let's Make Music Festival, in total, it ended up being just over 4 hours in length, and over 400 young people took part. We've had more than 3,700 views on YouTube to date, which we're absolutely thrilled with. And on the day itself, viewing figures were consistently at around 250 people at any point throughout the live stream. Something that we found worked really well, and we've used lots of time since, is the live chat feature, which we've then moderated whilst we're using that. And we found that it means that viewers can offer encouragement and support to performers whilst they're watching. Another of the benefits of our online festival was that we received contributions from young people the music service had never worked with before. So this was a way of getting to know new people. As a result of Let's Make Music, in order to make it happen, and then after it happened, we've got a whole wealth of resources now that have enabled us to do further projects. So we've got tutorial videos for students, schools, staff, in how to set up and record yourself at home and in the classroom, how to play to a backing track or a click track. We've got video editing tutorial videos that can either be for single shot videos with one camera, or in putting together matrix style videos like you just saw with the LSSO. And we've hosted drop-in sessions for schools and teachers to be able to come and get support in how to use those tutorials. LSMS do like to share good practice, so if anybody is interested in finding out more about these resources, then my email address is at the end of this, so I'd be very happy for you to contact me. The other thing I should say is that we worked with a media producer to bring everything together. So he took our graphics and then made them come alive and bring them together. So after the success of Let's Make Music, we decided to have a winter festival, but rather than it be a marathon event, we hosted it over the course of a week in December. We broke the areas of the initial festival down, and we had 3 main events: Let's Sing, Let's Perform Together, and Let's Be Inspired. So Let's Sing, we had a singing project for children, schools and families, and this included a live rehearsal on Zoom with Mark DeLissa, who wrote the arrangement of the song, and then people recording their audios, and we put together a photo montage video as a result of that. We also had an online concert for community, youth and adult choirs, which was really well received. It had about 1,400 views. 15 choirs took part, and we also, as part of that, we offered teaching resources for choirs to learn a new song, and there was elements of our event where they were interactive and people could sing along on the day. We then had our Let's Perform Together concert. I suppose traditionally this would be the Christmas concert for orchestras and bands, and we also included in that interviews with our youth ambassadors. So we really wanted the young people's voices to be heard, particularly about their experience of music making during COVID. So I'm just going to share with you a little snippet from that.
Hi, my name is Mira and I play the violin and the piano. I play in LSSO, and before lockdown I played in String Sinfonia. Music has always been a really big part of my life, and it means I can play with my family and my friends, and it's a really nice way to express yourself outside of school, and it's just a really good skill to have. I enjoy watching and listening to orchestral music that inspires me to develop my skills and see how I could be as part of an orchestra when I'm older. Being able to practice every single day and being able to work towards something through COVID, it just gave me a sense of normality. And when orchestra started up again, it was just like, apart from the fact that we had to do it online, I still saw the same people and it was like nothing had changed. So it was really nice knowing that we would be able to still go back to that once it's over.
Okay, so that's Mira there, sharing her experience, which I think is just lovely.
I think it's really...
We also then hosted for our central ensembles, we hosted some Let's Be Inspired workshops where we took the headline acts from the summer festival and we zoomed them into our Saturday morning rehearsals, and that was just a really good way to offer something different to young people who'd been rehearsing every week on Zoom, and it was a way to do something different that was full of energy. And we took King Brass, who you can see here, we took them into primary schools via Zoom as well, with our music leaders in the classroom with their classes. This was in the autumn term when there was no lockdown, and King Brass in their studio performing in their COVID secure booths. Something we've really wanted to do throughout all of this is keep young people that are making music motivated, and give them something different to just Zoom rehearsals every week. So we've offered half-termly workshops on Saturday mornings to our students. It's given them all a chance to try something new, maybe something where they're out of their comfort zone, but because they're in the safety of their own home, it's been a really good chance to try that. We've done score reading and conducting, beatboxing, body percussion, sight reading skills, and one of the most popular ones with the younger students was oral training, believe it or not, and they all loved doing musical karate. So I've just got a clip here of Shay leading the start of a beatboxing session.
Hello and welcome to Beatbox Basics with me, Mr. Shay. We're going to go through some beatbox techniques today, and you're going to be learning some rhythms. So what you're going to need for the session is a mouth. I'm guessing you've already got one of those. And very importantly, some H2O, some water, because you're going to have to keep your mouth hydrated, and you're going to be moving it a lot, but specifically your lips and your tongue. So you need to keep it oiled up, if you may, with some water. Okay. So
these workshops, when the third lockdown hit in January, LSMS decided that we wanted to try and do for music education what Joe Wicks had done for PE in the previous lockdown, and rather ambitiously we launched a daily lockdown learning programme on YouTube for schools and families. So every day, Monday to Friday, throughout the whole of that lockdown, we offered a different new activity for which schools did that had children in, but lots of families did at home. This included, it was always the same activity on the same day. So you knew that Wednesday was beatboxing, or Thursdays was singing. So we had singing assembly, body percussion, beatboxing, guitar and ukulele lessons, table tapping, homemade percussion. We had a send offer, which was the jam along with Carrie and Moki, and we also had videos to support our schemes of work. The impact of all of this online work has been fantastic. We've got an additional 450 plus subscribers on our YouTube channel. Some of our individual lockdown learning videos, such as Mr. Shay beatboxing, have got as many as 3,600 views. We've had viewers all over the world. Our YouTube views are over 53,000, and I think also the fact that staff and students have learnt new skills and we've been able to be creative and think outside the box has had a huge impact. So like everybody, one of the big challenges is keeping young people motivated and inspired over such a long period of time. So I think we've offered a variety of things to keep it feeling fresh. For example, our ensembles, whilst they recorded videos, matrix videos in June and in November, they haven't done one since, because this isn't something that they've wanted to do. Students recording to click and backing tracks is really hard work. It's really labour intensive for them. I know myself, with a daughter in one of the younger ensembles, we did, you know, multiple takes of Jingle Bells for her to get it in time. From an administrative point of view, coping with the volume of video and audio footage that we received for the festivals is quite challenging and involves being very organised. Timescales have been something really to think about, because obviously in the real world, if you're putting on a concert, then you rehearse up to the concert and then you perform. Whereas with a virtual concert, it all has to be edited together before the concert date, which means that really you're losing 2 to 3 weeks of rehearsal time for young people. Another challenge is budget. With a team of video editors and things, it's not a cheap thing to do, and there isn't really the possibility of generating an income from it. However, there have been lots of benefits. I think for the music service and the young people involved, they've got a record of what's been achieved during this time, which is really nice. Families, people have been able to share their performances with family all over the world, whereas normally you might get 2 tickets to watch your child's performance. So that's been a benefit as well. I think families have been a lot more involved in their children's musical learning, because things have taken place at home on Zoom, but also because they've helped and supported with recording and technical elements. It's also been a way to be inclusive and reach new families and new students. And another real benefit is all the new skills that we've all learnt. Technical bits, so all of our events have been hosted on YouTube and they've all been pre-recorded. YouTube covers performing rights, whereas other social media platforms incur issues with live streams and performing rights. We've hosted all our workshops on Zoom, and as I've mentioned before, we've worked with a media producer and a team of video editors, and some of that is also done in-house, and you know, as I said, we've all learnt new skills, so we've been done by a team of people. Another technical thing, we've used Dropbox folders for students to upload recordings, and this has been a good way to keep, you know, the administration of that in hand. Our future plans, we've just had a survey that went out to students, staff and parents. 56% said they'd like to continue with aspects of online learning and performance, and that was specifically with some of our workshop ideas that people enjoyed, and the fact that we brought students together from different areas and different ensembles to learn together for that. We've also 6 weeks ago launched an after-school music club, which takes place online on Zoom twice a week, and this is for children that have been doing whole class tuition, might not have access to an instrument. They can now log in and make music with us on a Tuesday and Wednesday evening, and that's going really well. We've got an online youth conference in July, which is in the planning. I'm not going to say too much more, and we've also got plans for a schools celebration virtual concert in July. So just before I finish, I'm going to play you a little clip of our Million Dreams virtual choir. So this choir, we were working with hundreds of children in primary schools, and this was about to be a live event in March last year, which of course didn't happen. We took it online, and here's just a little snippet of the result. So thank you for listening to my very speedy run through of some of the things we've been doing. If you are interested in more about finding out more about our online work, then you can visit our YouTube channel. If you're interested in finding out more about our resources, then please drop me an email. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I absolutely love the idea of LSMS as the Joe Wicks of music education. That's brilliant. And it really does sound like you've achieved that in terms of, you know, the numbers that you reached with your online offer are just phenomenal. And it's lovely the way that, you responding creatively to the challenges posed by the pandemic, you know, created so many more opportunities for even more young people and their families to get involved with music. So well done, all of you. It's brilliant to hear about. Thank you. We've got a couple of questions have come through for you already, but I'm going to save them up till the end. We'll ask them then. But yeah, thank you so much. Really, really exciting. And thank you for being honest about the challenges as well, because I think we learn, we've probably done such a steep learning curve this year, and we learn as much from the challenges that people have faced as from all the brilliant success that you've clearly had. That's fab. Thank you, Sarah. I'm now going to hand over to Katie Lodge and Tori. Katie is from the National Youth Choir of Great Britain, and Tori is from Choirs at Home, if I got that right. Stay at Home Choir, sorry Tori. And you've been collaborating this year, haven't you, on some really exciting online works that you're going to tell us a bit about, and then tell us a bit about what the work looks like for you kind of going forwards as we move back to maybe a more hybrid approach. So thank you very much for being with us this afternoon.
Absolutely, thanks for having us, Emily, and hi to everybody. I'm a white woman with dark hair sitting in front of a pale coloured background. Really nice to get the chance to speak today. I'm Learning and Engagement Manager for National Youth Choirs. And with me is Tori Longdon from Stay at Home Choir. Tori is an alumna of National Youth Choirs and a frequent staff member, and we've worked together very closely on a couple of projects. I'll let Tori introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Tori. I'm a white woman wearing a white top against a pretty much white background, so good luck spotting me. And I am a conductor, and before coronavirus, I was working around the country and further abroad, leading choirs with an emphasis on youth choirs and chamber ensembles. And when COVID started, I teamed up with another National Youth Choir alumna, Jamie Wright, and together we founded the Stay at Home Choir.
Yes, so we were going to split our session kind of between the two of us today, because I've got lots of things to say about what National Youth Choirs has done in the last year and a bit, and also just really wanted to give a platform for Tori to share what Stay at Home Choir has done, what their ethos is, what they're looking at, and the future for them. So I think we're going to kick off with Tori doing that, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. I'm going to share a few clips of what we've been up to over the last year and 2 months now. So when coronavirus hit, my colleague Jamie and I decided that we wanted to try and work with the restrictions that we were suddenly faced with. We didn't want to just take a rehearsal as a sort of entity and try to recreate it in an environment where you can't hear anybody singing back at you. So we decided that the way to do that, that we'd like to do that, is to work with different artists. And so we started to approach artists such as Voces 8, the Swingles, King Singers, Marin Alsop, Carl Jenkins, John Rutter, and say, hey, how about it? Should we make something out of the difficulties we've been faced with? And we started running an online choral community over Zoom. So here is a very early clip from way back in April 2020. Hopefully everybody can see this. Actually, I've just realized I should also share my sound. Otherwise, it will be less interesting. Here we go. All I need to get by, you're all I need to get by. Long as I got you, then baby, you know that you got me. There we go. So that was a project that we did with the Swingles back in April, and we were very much at the start of our journey. So over the last year, we've been sort of developing that initial idea, which was to collaborate and to look at how an online platform can actually remove barriers for access, which would affect people who were being who would like to get involved with in-person music making. Now, at DCMS, the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, did a survey, a Making Music survey in 2019, which I'm sure several of you will be familiar with. It's a survey that examines why people take part in live music, how many people, what kinds of music. It's a very far-reaching survey. And they found that 2.1 million people in the UK took part in some kind of live music making in 2019. Now, the really interesting thing about that survey was that it also revealed that 1.8 million people would like to take part, but didn't, on the grounds of either distance, health, or cost. So the figure there, the potential, is that almost the same number again, so almost double the number of people in the UK could be interested or wanting to get involved with live music making, but there are barriers with traditional music making through no fault of anybody's, and not particularly accessibility barriers, but all sorts of distance and society barriers which might stop people from getting involved. So we thought, okay, let's sort of pursue this, and the platform that we've created has, I think, about 2.5 million views on Facebook and YouTube. We've got 26,000 members around the world now. I think the last count was 76 different countries, and they're all coming together to collaborate with artists in a way that maybe you might not be able to if you're in a local choir that is serving the local community. So it's not like any one value is greater than the other, it's just different. In your local community, you get to interact with people who are nearby, you're developing long-lasting relationships and connections, and you're sort of growing and reinforcing the fabric of your community. And with the stay-at-home choir, what we've kind of discovered as the project has grown really rather organically is that it's a different type of community. It's an opportunity to connect with people with the same interests who live thousands of miles away, and to hear from people who are experts in their field, but who may never set foot in the Isle of Skye or Abu Dhabi or Buenos Aires, in the course of their year, and they can come in and have that connection with you, interactive connection. So we're really hoping that we've found something that's going to continue to add value to the musical landscape of Britain, and hopefully further afield over the course of the next year. So I'm going to delve a little bit into how we do what we do, and the actual product, if you like, that we offer. So we are an online choir, but we run our rehearsals over Zoom, and we put videos together in a really similar way to LSMS that go out on YouTube. Because we have no feedback and we can't hear people when they're singing in rehearsals, we have a slightly different way of teaching than you might if you were in the room with people. The live rehearsals focus much more on like high level interpretation, vocal technique, tuition, and the note bashing, so to speak, is covered by very detailed learning resources, which we release before the day. So the idea is that our singers will internalize learning resources before the rehearsals, and they will come with a base level of knowledge that they'll then be able to sing along with the rehearsals. And there's a sort of different style of teaching that we've developed to make sure that people are singing lots and not just sitting and staring at a screen, to try and make it into an active rather than a passive experience for the people who are being involved. We have various different types of session. Because we have so many people, I think our numbers for each project average between 2,000 and 3,500 singers per project. So it's big numbers. So connecting on a sort of human level with those people is quite challenging. So some sessions we have 1,000 people. We have actually maxed out the capacity of Zoom at several points over the last year. And we now stream live to YouTube as well, so that it's almost like they're looking in through the window at what's going on in the Zoom room. But we also have drop-in lounges where Jamie and I and the rest of the music team sit on Zoom and talk to anybody who comes in, and they can talk about how they're feeling, or they can talk about their vocal technique, or they can talk about their recording and ask us for advice. And through that, slowly over the last year, I think probably I could probably name about 1,000 of them. But we're slowly getting to know them as individuals and as a community. And we've got a very active Facebook page for them to get to know each other. So that's how we're kind of keeping them connected. And then when it comes to the actual online music making aspect, it's really similar to what Sarah was talking about. We have an audio-visual team. They are, bless them, only 3 of them, handling enormous amounts of footage, 2,500 people per project. But I'm going to show you another clip, and I hope that you will agree with me that they do a fantastic job. What's it going to be? Here we go. Hopefully, this should show you the correct window. Yes. This was from our project with Carl Jenkins, which was broadcast on Classic FM in September. As we celebrate the 20th anniversary of The Armed Man, we've been joined across the course of this project by several amazing organisations who've been involved in creating its legacy. Amongst them are the World Orchestra for Peace and the World Choir for Peace, whose music forms the basis of the film that we've seen tonight. And with them, we've been joined across the course of this project by the National Youth Choirs of Great Britain, who sang on the first recording and were also involved in the premiere in the year 2000. Now, that premiere was hosted by Classic FM at the Royal Albert Hall, and fittingly, Classic FM are our hosts this evening too. I'll just forward a little bit so you can see the final excerpt. So there you go. We overlay the different voices together, and we terrace them within the sort of audio space. So we have every single audio track that we get submitted gets used within that recording, and all of the voices that you hear have been recorded on mobile phones from 76 countries around the world. So there we go. I think that's, I was going to talk very quickly, if I may, Katie, about future plans. And then pass over to you. Yep, great. So we're going to keep going. We're currently working with Marin Allsop and the Wiener Konzerthaus to offer hybrid rehearsal offering. And if you're interested in getting involved, it's completely free. You can find it on the Stay at Home Choir website, which is www.stayathomechoir.com. And it's a free project where we're trying something new. So we are, oh, thank you, Emily. We are actually setting up a live stream with the Wiener Singakademie, who are the choir who are going to be singing the finale of Beethoven 9, conducted live with an orchestra by Marin on the 3rd of July. So we're joining their rehearsals live, and we're going to create our recording using orchestral audio from the Radio Symphony Orchestra of Vienna over the next few weeks. So this is something we think we're going to be doing more of in the future, providing a way for concert halls and orchestras and conductors and composers from all over the world to connect with their audiences. And certainly as we go into the future and climate change and international touring and travel become much more at the forefront of everybody's mind and much more challenging. We're hoping that we'll be able to offer an environmentally friendly way of offering these organisations a way to keep engaging with their audiences across the world without necessarily always having to get on a plane. So we've got plenty of ideas, and we're hoping that this project, which has come out of a time which has been so enormously challenging for many people and so stressful for the arts as a whole, might help us to discover a new way of keeping people connected. Thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you, Tori. That was that. I haven't seen that video.
Have you not?
No, and I was like holding the tears back.
Right,
so I'm glad you kept talking, because I've like been able to compose myself now. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And what she didn't say is that those are obviously they're superimposed upon a live video from a couple of years ago. National Youth Choirs was able to get involved in that, and obviously we were on the original recording, so we had some of our alumni who were singing with Stay at Home Choir who had been on the recording, so there's a lovely continuity. I was going to kick off my half of things with a video. It's completely different in tone, so please bear with me. I think it'll make you smile in a different way. Just a moment. Where are we? So this is what National Youth Choirs got up to in summer 2020.
Go. NYC summer, it's gone by much too fast. Give me some of that. Never give up.
Hang on, let me just close that screen. Where's everyone gone? Yes. Oh, so that was a little summary of some of the things that as an organisation we got up to last year. Little side note, I was on maternity leave last year, and I came back in November to discover all the amazing skills that my colleagues had developed. So their video editing is top notch, mine is beginner, so I'm getting there slowly. You will have noticed that the soundtrack to that piece, the words "Never Give Up," it was actually written by Jacob Collier, the multi-instrumentalist, who joined us for part of our National Youth Choir online course in August last year. And he wrote that collaboratively in a session together with the members of National Youth Choir. And it's just incredible. I mean, they talk about the session and the excitement of seeing him mix things that they're singing straight at him, and they could input straight into the mix. Just a really interesting collaboration and a great way to engage our young singers. And I think there's 2 points that I wanted to make, and I realise I'm running up against time, Emily, but I'm going to quickly touch on a couple of points. One of our key things from the pandemic has been collaboration, and I think that's the thing that draws us together with Stay at Home Choir is we've looked for those opportunities. As an organisation, we run 5 choirs from young people from the age of, from year 5 up to the age of 25. We have some emerging professionals programs that go up to the age of 29. So we've got a huge cohort of members and individuals involved with us, and we really felt that we had to offer them something unique, and that was also not going to conflict with all of the stuff they're having at school and the fact that they're on school Zooms, during the lockdowns for such long periods of time. So we really wanted to give them something special when we couldn't meet in person. So we really prioritised high-level collaboration. Jacob Collier is one, Stay at Home Choir was another one. We've just finished our spring courses in the Easter holidays. We collaborated with SK Shlomo, who's a beatboxer, singer-songwriter, and we had the best of times. And he wrote a piece together with our training choir that was just, it's brilliant. It's so good. It's so not National Youth Choir. It's so just, it's just a different thing to what we're used to. And the young people really enjoyed working with him. And he also got to work with our junior choirs, which are the younger age limit. And we've done collaborations. We're working on a collaboration with the Swingles at the moment with our National Youth Choir. We collaborated with the London Handel Festival. And that was actually and this is a bit of a dirty word these days in music education, isn't it? A bit of a hybrid. So we did with London Handel Festival, we recorded video contributions in person that were Messiah choruses that they then put into a live performance that was then streamed. So they had live orchestra, and then they had these pre-recorded Messiah choruses that went in with that. So we recorded to a click track, but we recorded to a click track in person. It was so exciting, so exciting. And yeah, that was at the end of March this year. So we've really done a whole range of collaboration, and we're just looking to offer more and more things to our members, in new ways of doing music in that way. The other thing we've been doing really is using online as just a starting point, as a way of offering something else. And I think that's absolutely what Sarah said earlier is you've got to offer what your users, what your young people, what they want. So if they don't want a Matrix video, and we've done our fair share, there's got to be something that's responding to their requests. So one of the things we found works really well is getting kind of collaborators into the room. So into the Zoom room, I mean. So with composing opportunities, that's a really good example. We really champion new music at National Youth Choirs. So with all of the commissions that we've had in the last year and a half, we've had the composer join our choir and, where possible, create text together, create work together. So that's been a big priority. And then the other thing that we've done is really try to be on the front foot and innovate in our partnerships. So the area of work that I'm responsible for, learning and engagement, is, as it says on the tin, schools work, primarily schools work, which has obviously been a bit tricky. But we're currently at the point of developing things going, for next term, basically, end of this term for next term. And there's this idea that we're going to be bringing a group together, maybe in an online space first, and then bringing them together in person. So work on some stuff in a Zoom room, and tailor the stuff that we know works well on Zoom. So in our case, we've found that musicianship work, I think that must be similar to what Sarah was saying about oral training. So kind of note reading and solfa, that sort of work, bringing that into Zoom works really well for us. And then using that as a starting point to maybe learn a little bit of repertoire, but then hopefully bringing some schools work or some hub work together in person at a later date, and you've already created a bit of a community, a bit of learning, and then bringing it together. And I'm having several conversations, and I'm open to several more at the moment about how that might work. So I'm in conversation with Sunderland Music Hub and Suffolk and the wider Northeast. As an organisation, we're based in the Northeast of England, about some of these sort of hybrid approaches and how that opens things up. I did just want to say, though, that it opens it up, but as I think everyone else has mentioned, digital has its own barriers, as we all know now, and it's just another thing to bear in mind. There's so many, there are its own problems, the spread of broadband, the lack of accessibility options, the fact that people have got that fatigue from being online for so long, especially when schools are online. And the simple fact of having access to a digital device, and we all know those tales of the family that literally has one iPad for a couple of children and it has to be shared around, and that sort of thing, and that's their only method of connecting. We have to be really careful with our offer at that point, and really thinking about the opportunities for young people. So I just wanted to bring that one in. I do, however, think that those challenges are sometimes different to what they are in person. So it's swings and roundabouts, isn't it? So for me, working in, thank you, Emily. Yes, I am drawing it to a close. For me, working in learning and engagement, it's picking the right platform for the job. For the task, for the activity, and it's really interesting talking to hubs and services across the country who say, they all have a different opinion, and some of them say, right, well, I know that my young people will not engage online, so I've got to bring them in person, but once we've brought them in person, maybe we can do a follow-up online. And thinking about the practicalities, they've brought them together in person, right, so they're going to provide buses or transportation and a venue. But then once they're online, thinking about all of those accessibility issues. So it's really exciting, as well as obviously challenging. And I just wanted to leave with that spirit of collaboration and really the sense of what Tori was talking about, that there are so many ways now to connect with some leading figures in the music world, or someone outside of our comfort zones in our genres, and really just to bring groups together with creatives and collaborators. It's just been an absolute joy, and I think I'll end on that note. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, both of you. You've made us smile and you've made us cry throughout your combined presentation. I've had all the emotions, and I've come away just feeling really, I think that sense of excitement in what next that you were just talking about, Katie, is really palpable through what you've done. The creative collaborations that you have achieved in both your organisations this year are just out of this world. They're amazing, and they've got that ambition in terms of the quality and the innovation built into them, but also in terms of really meaningful engagement. And you've thought so deeply about where your participants and audiences are at and what they need in order to properly engage, and I think that comes through really strongly in what you've both said. So thank you very, very much. It's really exciting and just gorgeous work as well. Thank you for sharing all of that lovely music that the young people and that the choirs have made. We are going to hand over now to Sinead Hayes and Catherine McManus. Connect Resound, as many of you will know, is a project that began life in North Yorkshire about 7 years ago now, terrifyingly. And the sort of key barrier that we were trying to overcome, reflecting what Tori said at the start of her presentation, was about the distance barriers that people face in North Yorkshire, an area the size of Cyprus, in actually accessing music provision. And for that reason, for that kind of distance, we've shared a lot with colleagues from Ireland over the last few years, because Ireland faces a lot of the same issues of rural access that we do in North Yorkshire, in terms of transport, in terms of actually getting music leaders and practitioners to where the young people are, and in terms of extremely patchy broadband. So we share a lot of those issues. So it's brilliant to come back together with some practitioners from Ireland, and Sinead and Catherine are beaming in from Athenry this afternoon. And I think, again, we've heard a lot about sort of the deeper level of musicianship that our previous presenters have been able to explore through their online work today. And I know a lot of your work last year has been really looking at really how far you can take online collaboration and how deep you can get that sort of musicianship and collaboration. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from you both of all. I'll be quiet and pass over to you guys. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Emily. So I'm going to share the presentation with Sinead. I'm going to do the first bit and then Sinead will do the second bit. I just want to say thank you to Tori and Katie and Sarah for giving us the whole range of emotions, actually, and I'm glad I understood exactly what Katie was saying about being able to have time to pull yourself back together again after the Carl Jenkins, because that was something else. So I'm going to share a screen with you just to guide you and give you a bit of background on where we're coming from. So online orchestras, is it an oxymoron? Your Zoom conducting reframing the baton is the Sinead. So I'll just give you a bit of background about Athenry Music School, because I'm aware that we're not a national organisation. We're a small town community music school. So we're a not-for-profit independent school. We're governed by a board of directors, which is fantastic. And I'm the CEO. So I founded the school in 2007. We started with 60 kids and two tutors, and we now have 30 tutors. Some are working internationally. We've got tutors in Brazil and Berlin from past teachers that are now working with us again, which is brilliant. We run 8 orchestras. We've 3 choirs. We normally do about 50 concerts a year. So we emphasize concert giving and concert going within it. And we have a massive ethos of commissioning new works. So we have 15 new works that are Athenry Music School commissions since 2010. Our latest one is with Northern Irish composer Philip Hammond, and he's written a piece around Carolyn's Lady Athenry called The Air of Athenry. We are the 3-time recipient of the National Award for the Development of Youth Orchestras, and I know their director presented with you yesterday. So very briefly, we got a bit of a head start because due to a series of unfortunate events, I had 4 students in Athenry who were close contacts of the first case of COVID in Ireland. So we moved online before the government closed schools. And we also, like I teach in Tasmania on a Tuesday morning, we have some experience in online teaching. And then we did a very early production with the internationally renowned Wee Banjo 3 that we had previously had a relationship with. And like Tori, I think that high quality partnerships are always the way to go. It pulls kids up amazingly. And we really worked out how to not send the backup material. We learned more about how not to do it than how to do it. And I think with Harvard's decision really early on in, it was late April, that they said they're going online for the entire 2021 season, allowed us to then really plan things. So we'd 4 months of planning in advance of September. I ran pilot orchestras in June. We talked about sourcing because we needed 3 times the tutors for the design that we chose, which was to sectionalize each of our orchestras. I then phoned all 331 families. It was like Groundhog August, but it enabled serendipitous conversations to happen, answer concerns, and I felt at the time that the input that was put into the families in August would come out through the year. We developed a methodology for the online tuition, looking at what worked live, and all of you have done very similar things to us, and I'm inspired. Actually, I've learned so much today already. But that was presented through the Irish Association of Youth Orchestras and has been adopted by many orchestras around the country. Set about choosing repertoire, which was actually done quite late. I'd normally do it in June, and I was working on that in August, based on textural concerns that I normally wouldn't consider in picking repertoire. So we would, the previous year before lockdown, we were working on Spirit by Sam Perkin. That's 20 different lines. There's no way we could deal with rehearsing that online. And latterly, the thing that we did was to look ahead to if the lockdown broke, which it did in December. We developed an expert panel to advise on planning for live events, face-to-face individual lessons, and they were based on parents and family members. We have a surgeon, a paramedic, and an infectious diseases lecturer in Oxford. So we were in great shapes because I am a music educationalist. I'm not an infectious diseases lecturer. The paramedic was exceptionally good practically in that he advised us to draw a map of your school or your rehearsal area and put the number of pennies into the hole of the number of kids that are going to be there, and then see how you move them around. Very, very good practical considerations. The ultimate considerations for the school, we have a very child-centred approach, and our youth orchestras are led like youth clubs. They contribute, they collaborate. We did a collaborative composition last year, very similar to what Tori was talking about, and Katie had said about Jacob Collier that I'm a little bit jealous about. That we work a lot with them. Could we keep the same ethos in a live setting, but transfer that online, that we could have youth-led ensembles that develop these youth as people, and then the musical consideration of can we develop them as musicians. So is it an oxymoron? You all know this. It's not orchestra. A lot of what's been bandied around is there's no social element. But as Tori said, you're getting connections that can really be developed online. Breakout rooms, you can still see body language. You can see when a child is edgy. Now that is based on numbers. We were dealing with very small numbers in each of the groups, and it was designed that way. People say there's no harmony. You can't do it, but you can. The Telemann canonic sonatas were an absolute joy to play, and the tutors loved it. That I miss harmony so much. We've done an awful lot of canons and ostinati. We're in the process of production with Scottish composer James Ross, and he wrote us a 7-layered ostinati part that we have 300 students that are sending in their recordings, or they've sent them in. We're in the process of putting them together. Within small groups, we're told we can't hear our students, and you can't. Within 1,000, you can't. Whereas when I'm doing orchestra, I've done it as a very child-centered. What are you going to play for me? Let's analyze your tuning. Is that note centered? Is it ringing? Do you think that you were rhythmically accurate? Lots of critical thought, lots of critical coming back, but also teaching the students how to use language that was positive, so that if they were being asked to feedback or give feedback about somebody else, they were given the tools with which to do that. Lack of ensemble sound. Actually, Tori's way of recording things, you might actually get that one, but it is the biggest loss to us. And in feedback from our students, literally just last week, they said, I miss orchestra. If I was late to orchestra, I nearly tripped up the stairs to get in because my fingers were itching. Whereas they're attending, they love the fact that it's accessible, that they don't have to move, but they miss harmony big time. We found massive advantages to online tuition. I don't know whether I'd ever want to do it again for a year, but massive advantages. Full attendance. I'm entirely amazed by that. Smaller sections leading to faster progress. We got through more repertoire than we normally do. They got a lot of individual attention. I know those children very, very well at this stage of the game. More opportunities for them to give feedback to me, and also for them to get to individually play. I was very careful with a weaker student which bars I asked them, so that I wasn't exposing them. They had more opportunities to troubleshoot things. Why is that passage difficult? Is it the string crossing? I'm a string teacher. I'm aware of wind teachers. This is not as easy to see. The better sight reading skills. Nobody was piggybacking on the front desk. You know, they just had to learn how to read. But I took time and I slowed down my explanations to make sure that I was avoiding a sort of Darwinian method of education in which the survival of the fittest got it and the rest of the kids were lost. Greater attention to detail, and Sinead will go into that you could shape bar by bar. You could get them to show you, how do I want this musical phrase? Where do you want it to take you? Where's its punchline? Where are you going? Our Shire students felt more comfortable, and actually we opened orchestra to students who are with an accessible outreach program of ours who have never been in orchestra before, because they weren't embarrassed. It didn't matter that their tone quality wasn't quite as good as the other students perhaps. The recordings of rehearsals could be reviewed and repeated, and our students did that a lot, and I would have sent the same sort of bar by bar, really note bashy tutorials in advance. Now they're very time consuming. And the international workshops, without the cost of flights or without that pollution going on. There's Scottish composers in that picture there, James Ross. He works with the Royal Scottish Conservatoire, and we had Raymond Dean, who would be an internationally renowned Irish composer, zooming in from Bavaria for his children on one occasion. So we had lots of fun. I love these. I love orchestra. If I could get a job doing orchestra all day, every day, I would just do it. We did Christmas party, and they did it like an old style Irish house party. I don't know whether they would have done it as well in a live setting. I think they would have been more nervous. We're doing an ice cream party tomorrow night that was inspired by a particularly treacherous Bar 99 in a piece, and they've got to come tomorrow night with a piece of music with Bar 99 in it and tell me something about it. Controlling conductors was great fun. So everybody's got their speaker on, and you literally go bunk, and it all comes in chaotically, but it's like an improvisation. You can do a symphony on one note type of idea, and they're doing that sort of thing. Paint Me Dynamics was using the visual of bow speed. Turn off your microphone. I do not want to hear you. And then show me what your dynamics are. Show me where your bow placement is. Where's your contact point? What speed are you going at? Did you change your speed? And they had to work to show me those dynamics. It was absolutely brilliant. Hide and seek is I pop off the screen and I play a couple of notes and they go and search for them. And I do say to them, listen, if you are looking for your shoes in the morning and they're not on the shoe rack, is it a failure? Or do you just simply know that your shoes aren't on the rack? so that they're allowed to make mistakes, it's all said. And then we'd not so serious ones. We had fancy dress parties. You can see little monsters made from scavenger hunts at the end that were to create variety and let us celebrate the ways, you know, Halloween, Christmas punctuate the year the way we normally would, actually, or typically. I'm not sure I like the word normally at the moment. Lastly, to prepare for the live rehearsals and recordings, this was a one-off project that was based on, can we do this? Are we allowed to do it? How are we allowed to do it? So the risk assessment is a very extensive document. Myself and another lady from the Dublin Youth Orchestras were commissioned by the Irish Association of Youth Orchestras to do this work. It took us 40 hours over Zoom. It wasn't much fun, to be honest. We did have a bit of a giggle about what exactly was a hot touch spot in the context of teenage music rehearsals. But apart from that sort of giggle, there wasn't anything. It is over 80 points that you do a mitigation, and you can see red is not good. You don't do anything in red and you have to change the red in. We made 5 separate policy documents for each of the individuals who would be involved in that rehearsal, tutors, conductors, volunteers, parents, students. We had to apply to the government for approval in writing. So it's from the Department of Arts, Heritage and the Gaeltacht here. And the only way that we could do this was to broadcast, which was great because that's what we wanted to do. But it was an extensive, lengthy project for essentially 2 40-minute sessions with 2 bubbles of students. So the planning was months of planning. The reality was entirely beautiful. The students were so pleased to be playing together. They were so pleased to see each other. Our orchestras have members from 76 different schools, so they may not be in school with one another, and they behaved themselves impeccably. It was much more fun doing this rehearsal than it was going to a Lidl or something. What I didn't realize until after the rehearsal was that I would have a personal reaction in that I developed insomnia based on the worry that perhaps my mitigation wasn't good enough, or that somebody did have COVID, and that it did scare me, and that insomnia has been a battle, a personal battle, and a personal reaction to that 9th of December will live with me for a while. What's interesting is the quality. So we produced 2 recordings with 2 separate bubbles in 2 40-minute sessions. So they had to record 2 things in 40 minutes. And then the next bubble came in and we did the same recording again. And Sinead edited and overlaid them. The quality of what they produced in the rehearsal, each note was shaped. They were in tune. There is no way that we would have produced that recording in 40 minutes in normal setting. The quality of what had gone on in Zoom seems to me to have been better. So if you've any questions, or I would be very happy if anybody hasn't done that sort of risk assessment. I'm so happy to share it. So the email there is director@athenrymusicschool.com, and you can see our wee man, our wee logo at the end there with his little hands out going 2 meters please. That is our logo changed to make a child-friendly response. So thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure being here, and I'm going to hand over to Sinead.
Thanks, Catherine. Wow, it's great to relive the journey. It's absolutely amazing to just go back there and kind of think about, where we were and where we started. So, as Catherine mentioned, I'm Sinead Hayes. I'm a conductor. I did all my training in the UK, and all my work is pretty much contemporary music, opera and ensemble work in Belfast and Dublin and other places. So I didn't really do very much work here where I'm living, which is actually in the west of Ireland, about 10 miles from where Catherine is based. So it was great actually to have the opportunity during the plague to actually reconnect and get to work with some of the musicians around the locality. So it was fantastic. And thanks to Catherine for just randomly ringing me up, and we had a brainstorm, and she said, well, do you want to do this? And I said, yeah, let's do this thing. So the first thing was finding the right repertoire. And obviously as a contemporary music person, I wanted to pick something that was new. So we picked a piece by Raymond Dean called A Baroque Session. But before I do any more talking, let's look at actually how it kind of all turned out. I think actually I'm going to stop sharing one second. I forgot to share my sound. There it is. Fantastic. Okay, here we go. So this is the third movement of the Baroque Session. Okay, so that's a little taster of what it was. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, the Athenry Sinfonietta is 18 players, aged 14 to 18. So they've all come through the Athenry Music School. They've come through all the younger ensembles. So they've had all that kind of experience of playing together and that kind of positivity that Catherine brings to her work. So I really got the benefit of that. It was fantastic. We have violins, violas, no cellos, unfortunately, double bass, 2 flutes, and of course an alto saxophone, which every string orchestra needs one. So I had to write special parts for Molly, but it was worth it to have her involved. As I said, the repertoire was chosen. The Baroque Session is a 4-movement piece for 3 soloists and string orchestra, and it's very sectional. So you can take a section of 8 bars, really work in it. And as you heard there, we got a lot of emphasis in. We got all the downbeat, the bowing and articulation kind of sorted out. I'm a violinist, so it was kind of easy for me to lead the sessions from the violin and go into detail on that. So our rehearsals were every Thursday from 7:30 to 8:30, and we'd have a 10-minute session where we'd all have a meeting with all the other ensembles, and then we went to our breakout room. And a bit like everything else, the pre-preparation involves, bowing, marking up the parts, emailing the parts, and making sure they print them out, and then also making sure they have them on the stands for the rehearsal. This is a kind of a weekly thing. So eventually I did have a Google folder that they knew that the parts were there and they could print them out if they went walking or whatever. It's something I hadn't really come across. Obviously with professional ensembles, everyone turns up, so it was definitely a learning curve for me. And then the other aspect of it was the recording and uploading of practice tracks. So obviously this is a new piece that hadn't been recorded before. So I actually recorded all the parts on violin and baritone violin and multi-tracked them overlaid. So again, just a lot of learning, and then made sure that they all had access to those on a page on my website. They could download all of the recording tracks and also some videos on, how to play various styles and things like that. So that was a really important part of it. So I made sure to get as much shaping, as much detail into those recordings as possible, so they had that in their ears when they were practicing. So just taking you into our weekly rehearsals, we had an initial chat. So nice things that happened this week: your favorite dinner, really just to kind of get them talking to each other. Then the tuning. So that's really where the kind of focus started. I tuned to 440, everyone mute, and really listen. So it's just focusing and starting to get that focused listening in there. And then the warm-up, we'd focus on an aspect of the technique. So it would be maybe sounding point. So they would copy my sounding point, that would change, and then I get maybe one of them to lead it, and everyone would have to copy their sounding point. Bow distribution, bow speed, all of that, just maybe electing a leader, everyone copy them. So it's kind of building all those kind of leading following skills in there. The 60-second bow, the sans filet, that was a really popular one, really good for getting the focus, and certainly for the wind players, for the long notes, that helped as well. So for the work on the repertoire, everyone muted, led by me. What I would do is I would play one say 8-bar section, really go into detail while everybody else played. And everybody else, say the second violins would play along, and everyone, you know, violas, and I would talk about articulation, fingering, all of the details, as much detail as I could, and then just get them to just really start to engage with that and just think about, is it matching? Always thinking, is it matching? And then we break up the sessions with the My Favorite Player video. So they would pick their favorite player. So we had someone bring in a video of Hilary Hahn. We all watched a little section of it. Then I'd lead a discussion about it, and we, you know, say, why is Hilary Hahn so brilliant? Be specific, you know, and tell me what about a right hand, because obviously it's mostly string players, but even the wind players had something to offer. So it's, again, just getting that kind of critical observation, starting to think, why does that sound brilliant? How can I make my sound kind of something like that? Then we just recap and usually play along with the backing track. So I would share my computer sound, and I would actually conduct along with the backing track and watch them, and just to see where the issues were, and then just clock that and focus on that for next week. Give them a week to kind of get to grips with it. So I really thought of this as kind of equipping them with the toolkit for their own musical growth, because obviously here in the West we don't have, and I did all my training in the UK, so I worked for, you know, Stoke-on-Trent Music Service and Trafford Music Service as well, so I know the amazing infrastructure you guys have there, and we don't have that here. So I want to give them some kind of a toolkit so that they can kind of have their skills to learn and develop themselves when they're away from their teacher, when they're away from Zoom. So I kind of thought of it in 3 ways. So critical listening skills, critical musical thinking, and just critical music observation, so that they can look at a video of Max Vengerov and they can say, okay, what is he doing? What exactly is he doing there? Okay, Max Vengerov is probably slightly, but aim high. This is always the message, aim high. So things like, for critical listening, the pulse, the rhythm, the character, the sound quality, always comparing to what you're hearing from me, or maybe what you're hearing from the backing track. Is the intonation matching? Am I playing exactly with the backing track? Is it together? Is it together? So things like tempo then, for critical musical thinking. Why? Why are we doing this tempo? Is it too fast? Is it too slow? Why is it that articulation? What's the character? Why? Always why. And then just looking at the macro and micro, structure of it. So what's the overall energy map of the whole piece? So when we would play through the whole movement, we would map our energy and just think, okay, well, here we're taking a step back, and then towards the middle, that's the climax, and then we're going back again. So really have that overview. And I think, you know, you wouldn't do that in a normal orchestra situation. You wouldn't feel like you could talk that much and kind of engage in that much, but they're all there, and there's a kind of an equality to it. Then there's the critical musical observation. Again, this just ties into awareness of colleagues, the leader, the conductor, just all of that sounding point, just being aware of all the variables that are possible. What's your left hand doing, all of that. And just equipping them with those skills, so that then when we got into the room for like 20 minutes of rehearsal, that it really, I was so surprised at how good it sounded and how together they were, and they had just all these kind of skills developed. So this is it, it's developing the questioning musician, and I want all of these young musicians to go out and become questioning musicians as they develop and as they grow. And I want them to tell other people about it. You know, how does it sound? How can I imagine it sounding? Even when they're listening to an orchestra, is it how I'd like it? Do I like that tempo? All of that. And then going back to their own development, what do I need to do? What are the macro motions, the micro motions that I need to match the reality, to the imagined sounds? What are the possibilities? Because they're endless. There's so many different ways to phrase. And as Catherine was saying, we'd shape maybe to the third beat of the bar one week. We'd shape to the second beat of the bar another week. We'd find the possibilities, and then we'd pick. And that wasn't the final word. It could always change. There's always flexibility, and there's always kind of some level of improvisation. And that's the thing. So, you know, all of this stuff can sound a little bit cerebral, but it's always good to remember that music is just magic, and just to kind of make sure they have space for all of that magic to happen. And it's just not like, I'm now playing in this part of the bow with this kind of bow speed. What's the magic? What's happening here? Why am I doing this? And it is magic. So I just think sometimes, and it was great for me to remember that as well, because, you know, when you're sitting here, and I'm sure you've all experienced the tumbleweed, you ask a question and there's literally, there's just tumbleweed in response. It's just good to remember that music is magic, and we're doing this for a reason, and we're kind of fighting for our survival. And I think the more we do, the more we can't be ignored, and the funding has to be coming in years to come, and there won't be cuts. I mean, you know, there's there's hard times ahead, so we just have to make sure that everybody knows how valuable and how important this is, and that's is what this is all about for us. So just to say thanks to Catherine and the fabulous players at Athenry Music School. You made me feel like a conductor again. It was amazing, and I conducted the Ulster Orchestra there about a month ago, and it was so emotional to be back doing that job again. So it's been an absolute lifeline, and thanks to Athenry. So there's the website, and if you want to get in touch with any of us, and thanks to all the other contributors, it was absolutely fantastic. I've learned so much about everything, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Sinead and Catherine.